Live on Propy's weekly webinar series. This is episode 65. We have guest Sara Hofacker of My OC Transaction Coordinators Service. Today, we're going to learn a little bit about the value of transaction coordinator services for the real estate business. Sara's going to tell us a little bit about what's going on in the transaction coordinator market, as well as some updates and future developments. Gwyneth and Sara are going to have a conversation about how to generate additional revenue through creative services that TCs can take advantage of. All of this and more on Propy's weekly webinar series, where we bring to you the latest trends in the real estate industry. Sara, tell us a little bit about yourself and for the audience.
Okay, so I am the owner of OC Transaction Coordinators, like you said, and I started this in 2015 after actually I was a manager in collections department of a credit union for several years and started doing the resale of properties. I got really interested in the real estate part of it and didn't like the corporate side of banking, so I decided to make a switch, and the rest is history.
Great. And you've had some amazing success with your company, OC Transaction Coordinators. And you just gave us a little background. Was there a moment that you said this is a right time to create a business for transaction management? How did you arrive to that point?
Yeah, well, thank you so much. So I actually was a transaction coordinator for a brokerage for a short time. And in doing so, I saw a need in Orange County. I knew some other transaction coordinators that were doing this in San Diego, and I thought, wow, it's incredible what they're doing. It looks like there's a need for it. And so I tried, and it was amazing the response that I got so quickly because of the need that there was out there. So yeah.
Great. And I understand you can handle maybe 30 or 40 transactions a month. Is that about the volume that you kind of do, depending on the complexity?
Yeah, I wish. I'm actually handling more like 50 to 70.
Oh my gosh, you really have grown. That's amazing since the last time we spoke.
That's true.
So can you describe some of the services that you include in your business?
Sure. So we do everything from listing to close, and then also everything in between and outside of that. So I have what we call microservices, which includes any piece of that wherein, a transaction coordinator. So say you just want your file looked over after you've completed it. That's something we can do as a microservice. And so I can just do listings or just do offers, things like that. We do leases. And then completely outside of that, we are also able to help with website setup. I've done that for some of my agents, everything from marketing to signing them up for blog services so that they're being seen online and things like that. So just a really vast array of things. I mean, administrative to the more high-tech type of things we try to help with.
And so we're going to get into a little more about that later as to where TCs can grow, not only if their services are independent, but also an in-house TC, how to expand the services that you're offering, even from within a team or brokerage. So, Sara, tell me some of the tactics that you use to get business leads. How do you attract customers?
So, this is kind of one of those things that I've learned over the years, that my main place, and this is kind of a surprise, I think, to some people, is Craigslist. I put ads out on Craigslist, and after about 30 days, the return on that is been my most successful. But I've also used social media a lot. LinkedIn is a big one for real estate, obviously. So that's something that I use a lot. And Facebook, kind of going a little bit away from that more. Instagram is still a big one, Twitter. So yeah, I just kind of have a multitude, but at this stage of the game, I think a lot of it has to do with referrals. People know me out there, and and are constantly, putting my name out there, which I think is amazing. So that seems to be my biggest generator these days.
Hey, can you give us an update as to the TC market? What kind of the growth or what? Let's talk a little bit about the responsibilities of a TC, which has been changing a little bit here over the last few years, especially over the last year, I would say as well.
Yeah, I was blown away. Everyone would just explain it with the same word. It's been crazy. It's been crazy. So this last year we've grown exponentially. And I think that the market is, for me, it's not slowing down at all. I have noticed an influx in, I would say, commercial, which is something that I'm excited about. We have a lot of experience in it, so I really like to do those transactions. So that's been growing for us. And it just seems that everyone's busy. Everyone has got so much to do, which is another reason why expanding those services is so important, because real estate agents are they're overwhelmed with, new business. So yeah, I think the market right now, it's a little, I guess it's a little bit scary, because, you never know what's going to happen in the next coming months. If all of this influx is going to finally level out, or what's going to happen. And so far it hasn't. I'm just astounded at how much we keep, growing, and new agents and things like that. So right now I would say that it's growing still.
And if I could ask something, well, when would a broker know that they need a TC? So either to hire a company, or maybe an agent if they're independent and don't have a TC with their company. What are some of the indicators that lead them to look for a TC?
I think that's a great question. I think that it varies so much from brokerage to brokerage, or from agent to agent, because it can be anything from, being overwhelmed with the paperwork after you have a few transactions in escrow. But it can also be that you're new and you're not comfortable with all of the documentation, or, you want that second set of eyes because you do know that there's so much compliance. So it can be one transaction, or it can be several. It's really your comfort level with the process for those agents. For brokerages, I think that it's always a great idea, whether you have one agent or whether you have, 200 agents, to have a compliance, that level in place, because we're not just, collecting signatures type of thing. I mean, we really make sure that every document that's required by, the compliance area, that those are in there. And that's something that it takes that responsibility and that away from the agent, so that they can focus on their new business, or, what they need to do out in the field. So it does vary. And I think that it's really a matter of talking to a TC, or even several TCs, to get a feel for what they do and whether or not that would help you, or if you have a good handle on that now and you would maybe need it later. So it really is, I think it changes person to person, or brokerage to brokerage, but that's kind of the general thing that I usually tell them is, how do you feel? Do you feel overwhelmed, or do you feel nervous that you may not have everything? Those are indicators that you might want to talk to a TC.
And so if I can summarize kind of what you said and interpret it a bit, if it was a brokerage looking to hire a set of TCs, you mentioned compliance. So that reduces the risk in any kind of audits or compliance issues. You mentioned the confidence level. If a brokerage is confident in their TCs, they're confident in the transactions, that they will have no deals that fall through. And of course, confidence leads to trust, right? They can trust that the process is in good hands. And what about the time spent? Can TCs typically reduce the amount of time a transaction takes to record?
Oh yeah, I think so. It's all about not letting things fall through the cracks. Anticipating things before they happen. And that comes with experience, and it comes with, I think that ongoing education that we always are pursuing. And I think that I've seen instances where if certain things would not have been caught by the TC, then absolutely this would have delayed closing. So that's it's one of the huge benefits of that. Or working with the escrow officers to get paperwork that's imperative for closing to be done. And so following that timeline, it's absolutely what keeps things on track. And it's just something that I think sometimes a real estate agent, I don't think they should have to necessarily focus on that. And they don't need to if they have the TC. So, they're out in the field, they're needing things to get done. They may not remember, so being that they have a set person to do that kind of stuff and then knowing that they're going to do the transactions the exact same way every single time. I think that's hugely important. And like you said, that builds a trust, and they can say, I know what Sarah's going to do next. I know what my TC is going to do next. And I know that she has that handled. So that gets built every single time they have another transaction. And it becomes like a great relationship, I think, that you have to build with your agent.
Sarah, let's talk a little bit about what additional microservices. And I think for the audience, we can start with, what do most people know about TCs today? And then tell us a little bit about what they don't know TCs are also doing.
Right. So I think what they do know is it's all about the disclosures for them. I think they know that we're keeping track of that timeline, and that we know how to build that disclosure package and make sure all of the documentation that needs to be in that file is there. I think that's known, and that's kind of what they reach out to us for initially. What I think maybe they don't know, and what I think is still kind of a place where TCs can seize an opportunity going forward, is that these microservices that I'm speaking about, what's great about an independent TC is we can be hired when you need us and not there when you don't. So it's only, you're not paying someone as an employee, which I think is always a benefit. But so we offer services like I was saying, such as, building a website for them, even if it's within their brokerage, that website that they build on their software, and all the way up to, I've done an actual website on WordPress, and that really, I guess, varies depending on people's talents or their knowledge. Preparing offer summaries so that they can present those to their clients. I think that's a huge one. And I think that, let's see, I do everything from, under their supervision, I can do anything from creating a listing, putting it on the MLS, which when they find that out is a huge thing, I think, for a lot of them. Anything, honestly, that will take time away from them being out in the field or searching for that new client. That's something I think that a TC can seize that opportunity and help them with that, as long as they have that skill set, which I think most TCs are probably pretty knowledgeable around those things. But those are kind of a summary of what I do. And then, like I said, that compliance piece. So say you don't want a TC for the full transaction, and you just want someone to look over your file and maybe upload it to your software that you use with your brokerage. That's another service that we provide as a microservice. So anything in between, like I always say, I don't think we should have a rigid structure about what a TC does. I think we should, see what they need and see if we can do it, and then work from there.
So the takeaway here, folks, TC is name only. So anywhere from listings to helping you with the offers, management, all the way through close and additional microservices. And I'm seeing some, and I think you brought this up earlier, design and marketing materials, branding, general admin work, social media and blogging as well. And I know some, it's not only the website, but it's tracking their SEO and Google keywords and ad campaigns as well.
Absolutely. I think that that's huge for them to have someone that can maintain a blog post or social media posts out there. And that is definitely something that we offer. And I think I think that's a really beneficial service as well. It keeps them out there. When we close a transaction, we're mentioning, on their social media, all of these things that they're doing, so that, they don't have to necessarily worry about that. So yeah, that's definitely something we do, is maintain those, those social media appearances.
So, and I understand your website, you had a questionnaire on that was designed to help agents or brokers understand when's the right time to go look for a TC or
We
a TC
do.
service.
Right. And so, and I was supposed to have the link for that, but we're updating our computer software today, so I didn't get it done in time. We have a whole new system going up. So I apologize, but if you go to my website, there is a quiz out there that kind of takes you through some yes or no questions, and then summarizes at the bottom whether, whether you're ready for that, or maybe you're still able to work independently. So yeah, if you go to my website, it's definitely available there.
And the website address is?
It's myoctc.com.
Again, myoctc.com. And you'll go into Sara Hofacker's OC Transaction Coordinator's website. Sara, how about some advice for a TC that wants to start her own services, or other small TC service companies getting to that next level? Something that you have learned in your growth path.
Yeah, I think that this is, it's one of those things where I went in pretty blind a few years ago, and I've learned a lot since then. And I would say the most important thing is to get a mentor, complete the CAR classes if you're going to be in California, or wherever you're going to be, whatever required classes that you have. Because California doesn't require it, but it's so beneficial to go through that and see, the basics. But then there are groups out there, there are TCs all over that will help you. There's association even for California TCs that I'm a part of, and they will, excuse me, they will mentor with you, have you work with them on transactions, be their assistant even for a while. And that would be the thing that I would recommend the most, is know your stuff first before you try to help with these transactions on your own, because this is so important to them. And something that you do as a TC can make or break their deal. So it's really important that you know what you're doing before you go out there on your own. So, we offer mentor services here, but there's so many out there that offer the same thing, and there's so many people willing to share their knowledge. So I would say find one and work with them for even a few months before you do it on your own, just to see if it's something that you're even wanting to do before you dive in so far. It's a really intense position, so you have to know what you're getting yourself into, I think. But it's really rewarding, and the relationship that you gain with agents is amazing. But I would say they need you to know the stuff before they don't have time to train you or teach you the things. So you have to know what you're doing before you go in.
Yeah, Joe, we have a question from the audience on live stream, and it pertains to what Sara's talking about here. So you were talking about mentoring, getting a mentor, and understanding what you need. Well, is it possible to be a TC without a real estate license, or do you need a real estate license?
So no real estate license is necessary in California. What is necessary is to become certified as a TC through CAR. When I started doing this, they didn't require that, but I don't know if it's a requirement now. I did it anyway. I think it might be, but other states, it varies. You may need a real estate license to do it. I know in certain ones like Colorado, you do. So it does vary. And I think that you have to look into it to see what that particular state that you're interested in doing it for requires, because there are some states that you are not allowed to practice anything under real estate without that license. So definitely something to look into.
Again, we're on with Sara Hofacker, owner and founder of My OCTC, Transaction Coordinator Services, and my co-host, Gwyneth Iredale. As we wrap up the end of our weekly webinar, I just want to let Sara, any final thoughts on, or words of wisdom?
Well, I would say, I think that, for agents that are looking or have been thinking about it and haven't quite pulled the trigger on that yet, I think that you can't lose anything by calling and talking to a TC, and even experimenting by doing one transaction with them and seeing how that goes. And there's so many different personalities and different traits out there that I think if one didn't work for you in the past, it doesn't necessarily mean that it may not work in the future. So I say, talk to them, reach out, and definitely talk to them about what you need and make sure that it's a good match before you work together. But I mean, I think that you have nothing to lose by, getting that assistance. And like everyone says, a successful person knows when to delegate. I think that if you're going to really be a successful real estate agent in such a competitive market of California, you need to have an edge, and, not sitting behind a desk for hours of the day doing paperwork is definitely one of the edge pieces that you need. So that would be my advice.
And,
So
many of the real estate coaches.
One second. My takeaway, folks, if you heard Sara, if you're an agent and you're not delegating, you're not being as successful as you could be.
Correct.
And to add to that, excuse me for talking over you, Joe, a lot of the real estate coaches will tell you, you need to know what your hourly cost as a real estate agent is. And, most agents underestimate that. So really their cost should be $100 an hour or more. So that plays into the decision to delegate, so that they can be free to go out and be with people and be with your clients and create relationships that will last through several home purchases and sales. So I think a lot of agents would love to do that more than paperwork.
Yeah.
We have one final question for you, Sara, and I want to get this one in. What's your favorite activities of being a TC, and why? And what do you love most about it?
I would say that my favorite activity is, and it's kind of a lost art, but I come from a customer service background, and I think building a relationship on the phone with an agent is one of the most rewarding things for me. You work with them so closely on these deals. And so getting to know them and knowing how they work and anticipating what they need and having them just their mind blown, to me, it's amazing. I think that exceeding those expectations and, taking that, I'm really scared to hand this over to someone because I think, I can handle it better. Everyone has that kind of fear. But then gaining that trust and picking up the phone instead of, sometimes emailing or texting, and actually having that personal interaction, to me, that's what's the most rewarding. I guess I come from old school, maybe where I don't think texting and email cuts it all the time. So I think that having a face-to-face relationship with them is key, and it to me is rewarding. So
thank you. Gwyneth, any last thoughts?
No, any stories, a success story or a cautionary tale you'd like to share of a really interesting, see, you're in California. You have quite a challenge with California as a disclosure state, and my disclosure documents when I bought and sold were, I don't know, really thick. So you've been really challenged by the transactions that you handle. Are there any cautionary tales or incredible success stories you'd like to share?
It's the best thing that I ever did was I joined it started out as just a Facebook group of TCs that were all over California. And because when I went into doing this, I honestly can tell you, I had no idea what I was getting myself into. I knew how to be a TC, but I independently was a whole nother animal. So I joined this group and they taught me so many things. And, through COVID, you mentioned the disclosures, and there were so many added ones, and they kept changing and things like that. And if it weren't for this group and the ongoing education that they provided, and now they're an association through CAR, which is amazing, that we're all a part of, I don't know that I would have been able to get this far, because they're so willing to help you. So it's just the community of TCs out there in California, because we all know what it's like, is really supportive, and it's great. So to me, that was the key. to how I became so successful. I owe it all to them.
Yeah. Surround yourself with smart people to support you and share
Yes.
like a mastermind group.
Yes, exactly.
Great. Well, Sarah, it was always a pleasure. Thank you very much. Gwyneth, thank you as well. And
My
thank
pleasure.
you, folks, for joining us on this episode of Propy's weekly webinar. Next week, we'll be talking with Joe Curtis at the Pango Group, along with some other agents, on the changes that are going on with title and escrow. Thank you very much and have a good day.
Bye-bye, everybody.